My name is Sam, and I want to tell you a story about starting from zero. It's a story that shows how life can change in the most amazing ways when we take the first step, even if we feel we have nothing. Please listen carefully. It's not just a story, it might help you in ways you never expected. So let's begin. I met a boy named Tommy when I was much younger. Tommy wasn't the smartest kid in school, and he didn't come from a rich family. In fact, he barely had anything. His shoes had holes, his school books were second-hand, and people didn't expect much from him. But what Tommy had was something much more valuable. He had a dream. Tommy wanted to be a writer, but everyone laughed at him. They said, "You? A writer? You have nothing. You better forget about it." Tommy didn't let their words stop him. He didn't have money to buy fancy notebooks or a computer to type his stories. Instead, he picked up pieces of scrap paper he found in the streets, old newspapers, and even the back of grocery receipts. He used whatever he could find to write his ideas down. Sometimes he would write stories in his mind while walking to school and whisper them to himself so he wouldn't forget. Every day was hard for Tommy. There were moments when he felt small, like a single drop in the ocean. But every night he reminded himself, it's okay. I'll start from zero, and I'll keep moving forward. He knew that every writer, every artist, every successful person once had nothing. They all had to start somewhere, and that somewhere was often zero. He told himself over and over, starting from zero doesn't mean staying at zero. One day, something special happened. There was a story writing contest at school, and the prize was a new set of books. Everyone expected the popular kids to win. They had nice notebooks and all the tools to write perfect stories. Tommy didn't care. He wrote his story on old paper and handed it in with a smile. His friends teased him, but he didn't listen. When the winners were announced, everyone was surprised. Tommy's story was chosen. The judges said his writing had something special: heart, honesty, and hope. Tommy didn't just win a set of books. He won respect. For the first time, people looked at Tommy differently. They saw not just a boy with old clothes, but someone who dared to dream, even when he had nothing to start with. Now, let me tell you why this story is important in real life. We often think that to succeed, we need to have everything in place: a good plan, money, skills, or support from others. But that's not true. Success begins the moment we decide to try, even if we have nothing. Some of the greatest stories start with nothing at all, just like Tommy's. In the real world, there are people who started with no money, no job, no fancy education, but they made it big because they refused to give up. You know people like Steve Jobs, who started Apple in a garage, or J.K. Rowling, who wrote the first Harry Potter book when she had no money and was rejected by many publishers. They all started from zero, and they kept going. The truth is, starting from zero is not a bad thing. In fact, it's a gift. When you start from nothing, you learn things that others might never understand. You learn to be strong, to believe in yourself, and to make the most out of every little thing. You discover that you don't need to have everything to begin, you just need to begin. There is a secret hidden in every story of starting from zero. That secret is that each step, no matter how small, takes you closer to your dream. It's like planting a seed. At first, the seed looks tiny and almost invisible, but with patience, care, and love, it grows into a big tree full of leaves and flowers. That tree would never exist if someone didn't plant the seed and believe in it. Tommy's story shows us that it's okay to start small. It's okay to feel lost. It's okay to make mistakes along the way. What matters is that we don't stop. Life is like a river. Sometimes it flows smoothly and other times there are rocks in the way. But the river doesn't stop flowing. It keeps moving, finding its way around every obstacle. And that's what we need to do to keep moving. If you are in a place where you feel like you have nothing, remember Tommy. Remember how he started with old paper and a dream. You have something just as powerful, your dream, your hope, your heart. Even if others don't see it yet, you know it's there. And that's enough to begin. Take one small step today, and another tomorrow. Keep going, even if the road feels long. You might be thinking, but what if I fail? That's okay too. Everyone fails at some point. What matters is that you try again. Failure is not the end, it's part of the journey. Every time you fall, you learn how to get up. And every time you get up, you grow a little stronger. So, here's what I want you to do. Take a deep breath and think about one thing you've always wanted to do. It could be anything: writing a story, learning a new skill, starting a business, or just being a better friend. Now, tell yourself, I can start from zero. It doesn't matter how small your start is. What matters is that you start. Tommy started with nothing, and so did many others. You have everything you need within you to begin your journey too. Will it be easy? No. Will it be worth it? Absolutely. The road might be tough, but every step you take brings you closer to who you want to be. Now, I don't want to end this story here. Life is too big and beautiful to wrap up in a few words. There are more adventures waiting for Tommy, and there are more adventures waiting for you too. I'll leave the next part of the story for you to imagine. What will happen next? Will Tommy write a book one day? Will you take that first step toward your dream? Tommy kept writing, even after winning the contest. He didn't stop just because people started noticing him. In fact, now he worked harder. Every day after school, he would find a quiet corner in the library, or sit under a tree in the park, writing stories about everything he saw: stray dogs, sunsets, kids playing on swings, and old men feeding pigeons. His stories weren't perfect, but that didn't matter to him. He knew that every word was a step forward. He learned something important during those moments when you start from zero. Even small things feel like treasures. An old pen, a kind smile, or even just 5 quiet minutes to think felt special. Tommy realized that life isn't about waiting for big opportunities to come your way. It's about finding joy in every small step you take. One day, Mrs. Carter, Tommy's English teacher, pulled him aside after class. "Tommy," she said gently, "I see something in your writing. You have a way of seeing the world that's rare. I think you could become a great writer someday." Her words felt like sunlight on a cold day. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. It gave him a kind of strength he didn't know he had. But not everyone believed in Tommy. Some kids still laughed behind his back, saying things like, "He got lucky once. It won't happen again." Tommy heard those whispers, and some nights they stung. But then he would remember what his teacher said, and he would pick up his pen again. "Even if they don't see it now," Tommy whispered to himself, "I'll keep going. One day they will." The years passed and life was still full of challenges. Tommy's family struggled to pay the bills, and sometimes they couldn't afford more than a loaf of bread for dinner. But Tommy didn't give up. He found part-time jobs, cleaning tables, mowing lawns, anything to earn a little extra. Even when he was tired, he would write at night by the dim light of a street lamp. It wasn't easy, but Tommy knew that every page he wrote brought him one step closer to his dream. And then something incredible happened. When Tommy was in high school, he saw an advertisement for a national writing competition. The prize wasn't just books, it was a full scholarship to college. For someone like Tommy, this was a dream beyond dreams. A chance to change everything. He decided to enter the competition, but self-doubt started creeping in. What if I'm not good enough, he wondered. What if they laugh at my story? For a moment, he thought about giving up. But then he remembered something important. Starting from zero doesn't mean staying at zero. With trembling hands, Tommy began writing his story. He wrote about a boy much like himself, someone who had nothing but a dream. A boy who didn't stop, no matter how hard life got. It was a simple story, but it was filled with heart. When Tommy finished, he folded the pages carefully, put them in an envelope, and mailed them off. All he could do now was wait. Weeks went by, and Tommy checked the mailbox every day. Finally, the letter arrived. His hands shook as he opened it. And there it was, a letter saying, "Congratulations. You've won the scholarship." Tommy couldn't believe his eyes. The boy who once wrote stories on scraps of paper was now on his way to college. This victory wasn't just about the scholarship. It was about proving to himself and the world that starting from zero is not the end. It's the beginning. At college, Tommy's world expanded. He met people from all walks of life, people who saw the world in different ways. Some of them came from wealthy families, and others, like Tommy, had started from nothing. But what surprised Tommy the most was this: even those who seemed to have everything also faced challenges. Everyone, in their own way, had moments when they had to start from zero. Tommy learned that life is full of beginnings. We all have times when things fall apart and we feel like we're back at the starting line. But starting again isn't a failure, it's a chance to grow. Even in college, there were moments when Tommy struggled. Some of his stories were rejected by publishers. Some days he felt lost and unsure of himself. But every time doubt crept in, he reminded himself, it's okay to start again. The important thing is to keep going. And so he kept writing. Day after day, word after word, page after page. Some stories were good, some were not. But Tommy knew that each story, no matter how small, was a step forward. Years later, Tommy's first book was published. It wasn't a bestseller right away, but it found its way into the hands of readers who needed it. Letters started coming in, people thanking him for writing stories that made them feel seen and understood. One letter stood out. It was from a young boy named Leo who wrote, "Your book gave me hope. I don't have much, but now I know that I can start from zero too." Tommy smiled as he read Leo's letter. He saw a bit of himself in that boy, and in that moment he realized something beautiful: the story never really ends. Just like he was inspired by people who started from nothing, now he was inspiring others to do the same. So, my friend, this story isn't over. It never will be, because every day is a new chance to begin again. Maybe today's the day you take that first step. Maybe today's the day you tell yourself, it's okay if I have nothing. I'll start from zero. And who knows? One day you might be the one writing your own story. A story that inspires someone else to believe in themselves. A story that says, it's not about where you start, it's about where you're going. What will your next step be?